Welcome into another edition of the Fat Guy Podcast. My name is Brett Mason. I am that fat guy. Thanks for listening to the Fat Guy Podcast today. I'm a guy who was overweight my entire life. I started being overweight when I was like 6 years old or something, and my weight gain just continued year after year after year until I reached over 400 pounds. In 2016, my doctor told me I was pre-diabetic. I needed to start taking metformin, and I would probably wind up on insulin soon. That's the day I decided to start getting really serious about my weight and my health, and I wanted to change my life forever. Not just lose weight, I wanted to change my life. Since that date, I've lost around 100 pounds. I completely reversed the pre-diabetes, and I did all that without taking any kind of drugs or doing anything like that. My fasting blood sugar at that time was in the 115 to 120 range. That was before I eat anything during the day. Now I wake up and it's in the low to mid 80s normally. I've spent hundreds of hours researching what makes us get fat and have an obesity problem to start with. What I discovered from my research that it wasn't my fault. It's not your fault. You don't get fat because you're lazy. You don't get fat because you don't have any willpower. You don't get fat because you just like to sit around and stuff stuff down your face all the time. There is actually a metabolic reason for it. I'm not a doctor. I don't have any formal medical training. Anything you hear in this podcast is only my opinion. It's not intended to diagnose, prevent, treat, or cure any disease. For your health and weight loss goals, you should always consult with a health professional. And so here we go. Last week we talked about the first 2 steps that you should take to turn your body into a fat-burning machine. Now, this is a stretched out, slow instruction, okay? Optimally, you would want to implement all these things on one single day. So here's what I would suggest. Now, sure, you can go ahead and, like last week we talked about taking out drinking. Don't drink calories anymore. Don't drink colas and sweet teas. You just got to get rid of that stuff. And stop eating bread. Now, hopefully, since the last time you've done that. But if you haven't, you know what you could also do is just start taking notes, get yourself prepared, and set a start date and stick to it and implement all the things that we'll cover in this series of podcasts. Nevertheless, we're going to begin now with thing number 3 that you need to do to turn your body into a fat-burning machine. This one is going to hurt. If you thought the last podcast episode was painful, then you're really going to hurt at this one. Most people will. Nevertheless, truth is truth, and I'm here to help you get healthy. So with that being said, here we go. With few exceptions, you're going to have to stop shopping for things that are found on the interior sections of the grocery store. Now, this is going to flip a lot of people out, but there goes your pasta, there goes your hamburger helper mixes, there goes your flour. There goes all the bread. The list just goes on and on. The tortillas, cans of, I don't know, you might could work in cans of soup. I haven't really looked at that too much. I know if you eat the soup from the can, you can only eat it in very small quantities. But there's a few things in the center of in this grocery store you could still buy. That would be things like, salmon in a can, tuna fish in a can. You could get a canned chicken would be one of the things that you could get. So it's not like you won't ever go to the center aisle of the grocery store ever again. It's just most all of those processed things will just mostly be off limits. So the reason for this is because it's all processed and stocked full of carbohydrates, and all the fiber has been removed and all the water has been removed. That is a means of processing food. So when you're preparing food to put in a box, or you're preparing food to put it in a bag, the way that you're able to do that and get it to have a long shelf life is you suck all the water out of it and you suck all the fiber out of it, and that takes a lot of the taste out of it, and then you replace all the taste with a bunch of more sugar, which is more carbohydrates, and then you probably pump a little fat in there too. And so what you wind up with is a Franken food that tastes really good, but it runs your insulin levels really high, and it causes the whole problem that we started talking about on last week's show. So, what do you shop for in the grocery store if you eliminate all those things? Well, it's really simple. You're going to shop the outside aisles of the grocery store, which is the produce section, the meat section, the cheese section, and the dairy section is primarily where you're going to want to go shopping. First and foremost, probably be the meat section. Secondarily would be sources of fat. Now, again, this is something you'll find on the inner aisles of the grocery stores. It's not like you'll never go down there, but you get coconut oil down there. You can get some other types of oil that may be healthy. Coconut is the best. Primarily your fats, though, are going to come from cheeses, cream, not cream that's all sugared up for a dessert, but just pure whole whipping cream. That's a good source of fat. And butters. Butter is a really good source of fat. That's on the outside aisle. So primarily you're going to be buying meat will be where most of your calories come from. Secondarily, your calories will come from fats and cheeses and things like that. Mostly fats. You don't want to eat too many cheeses. And then very last on the list is from the produce section, where you're going to eat primarily green leafy vegetables or broccoli or cauliflower, asparagus. You will be avoiding anything that grows underground. So if it has a root, like you can eat turnips, but you don't eat the turnip root anymore. You will be eating, like I mentioned before, broccoli and stuff like that, but you won't be eating the potatoes of any kind, shape, form, or fashion, and you're going to be avoiding the fruit as well. Later on, you can probably start adding in some berries, but say goodbye to bananas and pineapple and watermelon. Trust me, that wasn't harder for anybody than it was for me, because I used to eat 2 to 3 pounds of watermelon nearly every day for breakfast. So, that's step number 3. So if you combine step 1 and step 2, and now you add step 3, you are pretty much 85 to 90% to be where you need to be. There's some fine tuning and some honing and some tracking that you need to learn. There's some little tips and tricks. There's some things to know. But you will vastly change your life if you just do step 1 that we did on last week's show. If you add this step in, and you just go, you know what, if it's not from the meat section, and it's not from the dairy and egg section, and it's not from the produce section, that I'm not going to eat it, your life will be fundamentally transformed, and you'll be well on your way to turning your body into a fat-burning machine. Always keep in mind, does it have a lot of carbs and not any fiber? That's really all you need to know. Remember from last week's show, if you missed it, go back and listen to it. We explained why insulin is the key to weight gain and weight loss. So if you go back and refer to that, it'll make, instead, this isn't just some random wacky diet somebody threw out there. Nobody didn't just go, ooh, what if we tell people not to shop on the inner aisles of the store anymore? No, there's actually a scientific reason behind it. If you missed last week's show, it's in that show. If you have any questions, you can shoot me a message on the Fat Guy Podcast Facebook page, and I'll be happy to help you any way I can. Thanks so much for listening.